A huge explosion, believed to be a plane crash.
There was a big ball of fire, and you could feel it then.
1 minute you're sitting there, you're playing with your kids, you're laughing, and then you're running for your life.
Devastating beyond words.
As soon as you close your eyes, the flames in front of you.
And think about each other and remember, as people are looking at this horrible, horrible scene, please remember these are real people that got infected.
They wanted to come together in some way to show, their support to each other as well as to the community.
To a friend, a neighbor, a co-worker, and let them know it's okay to not be okay at this time.
Imagine if you were there, not knowing what's happening. Together we'll get through it.
It is something Louisville has never experienced, a major air disaster. So many lives changed here on Tuesday, November 4th at 5:13 p.m. Now, more than a week later, we are honoring the victims. This is a WHAS 11 News special report on WHAS 11 Plus. Hello, everyone. I'm Doug Proffitt.
And I'm Connie Leonard. The preliminary report as to how this crash happened could be out in 30 days. That would put it in early December. Business owners have been slowly allowed back in to see what's left after the devastating fireball consumed many buildings and equipment. The plane had just been packed full of fuel for a long flight to Honolulu.
Here at WHAS 11, we realize the gravity and loss associated with the event, the worst air crash in our history. So we begin tonight with the names of the pilots and the people on the ground who were killed.
The crash zone stretched a half-mile and impacted businesses who had customers inside. 62-year-old Captain Dana Diamond, 57-year-old Captain Richard Wartenberg, 45-year-old First Officer Lee Truitt, 3-year-old Kimberly Asa, 47-year-old Lou Fedden, 37-year-old Matthew Sweets.
Also 35-year-old Megan Washburn, 52-year-old John Lauk, 45-year-old Angela Anderson, 52-year-old Carlos Fernandez, and 37-year-old Trinidad Trina Chavez, 65-year-old Tony Crane, 45-year-old John Spray, and 31-year-old Ella Petty Wharton. WHAS 11's Ian Hardwood has been talking to some of their family members.
They tell us that it was a terrible wait until they heard the news. Angie Anderson's sister described it as being stuck in limbo.
The names of those that are missing match the names of those who the coroner has identified as victims.
Standing in Metro Hall Wednesday, Coroner Joanne Farmer held all 14 precious names, bringing them to light for families who suspected the worst. Their loved ones died when a UPS cargo jet crashed south of the runway.
I had a family member ask me yesterday, how do you ever get used to this? And I said, I don't. If I get used to this and it doesn't bother me anymore, I'm in the wrong profession. I need to move on to something else.
With the names read, she hopes healing can begin.
Captain Dana Diamond, 62 years old. Captain Richard Wartenberg, 57 years old. First Officer Lee Truitt, 45 years old. Angela Anderson, 45 years old. Carlos Fernandez, 52 years old. Louis Fedden, 47 years old. And Kimberly Asa, who was the granddaughter, 3 years old, of Mr. Fedden. Trinidad Trina Chavez, 37 years old. Tony Crane, 65 years old. John Locks, 52 years old. John Spray, 45 years old. Matthew Sweets, 37 years old. Ella Petty Horton, 31 years old, and Megan Washburn, 35 years old.
While the smoke has faded, the memories of those lost live on in their families' hearts. Like Angie Anderson, her sister says she raised 4 children with a big smile. She left work and dropped off scrap metal last Tuesday. Or Trina Chavez, a grade A employee cherished by her kids and coworkers alike. And a dozen more.
Every one of these names is a circle of family, friends, stories that will forever be unfinished. I've heard it said that everyone dies twice. Once when you take your last breath, and again when your name is spoken for the last time. So as we hear these names today, let's never forget their lives, their laughter, their love.
Love, just one side of a coin shared with grief.
The grief will lighten a little bit as time goes on, but the price of love is grief, you know.
And the UPS community in Louisville is certainly thousands strong. Employees wanted a way to come together and grieve.
And that happened. The UPS Teamsters 89 organized a vigil at their union hall 2 nights after the crash.
We have many people here today that have questions, have anger, have bitterness. It's okay to not be okay at this time.
Right here, Taylor Boulevard, Waterston Expressway at the Teamsters 89 Union Hall. That's really the heart of the South End, impacted so much by the crash. Kentuckians and Hoosiers alike attended, either working at UPS themselves or knowing somebody who does.
And Lutheran Church Charities honoring victims with these crosses. People in attendance wrote memories and words of encouragement on them.
Let's take a closer look now at the timeline of that fateful day. It was just after 5 p.m. on Tuesday. A monstrous pillar of smoke suddenly filled Louisville's skyline. Our first evidence that something major had happened.
And moments later, it was confirmed a UPS cargo plane had crashed south of the airport. We received a stream of viewer videos from you from all around the city. You can see the smoke visible all the way across the Ohio. It was also on our weather radar. A shelter in place was quickly announced in a 5-mile radius of that crash, and that soon extended from the outer loop northbound to the river.
The air was toxic, and officials warned the community to close their windows and use their air intake systems and keep those off as well. A fleet of emergency crews from all over Kentucky rushed to the site.
Explosion off Fern Valley Road by the airport. Lots of black smoke. Fern Valley Road and Gray Lane. So there was a huge explosion, believed to be a plane crash, huge fire and smoke. Arson aid is responding as well. Do you have a patient description?
It's probably going to be late 20s, early 30-year-old white male. He got burned to approximately 75% of his body.
And here's a look at the flight path the plane took originally. The plane's final flight was scheduled to depart around 3 p.m. FlightAware says it was 2 hours and 2 minutes late for an unknown reason. It then taxied out to the runway.
As the pilot started the takeoff with full thrust, a persistent ringing bell is heard in the cockpit. The flight was last recorded in the air at 5:13 p.m. according to the NTSB, with an altitude of 100 feet in the air, crashing after barely 1 minute in the air, hitting businesses including Grade A Auto Parts and Kentucky Petroleum Recycling. First responders across the state came into Louisville to help. Okolona Fire Department, the Louisville Fire Department, and Metro EMS. They were all working side by side.
Congressman Morgan McGarvey described first responders running into hell with skies raining oil. Louisville Fire Chief Brian O'Neill joined us here on WHAS 11 to describe his initial response.
Well, what I first saw, my wife works at the airport, so the first thing I saw, she texted me the initial plume and she said, "What is this?"
Wow.
And then as soon as I was in my car on the way there, you could see this tremendous column. We look back to the GE fire. That was a huge column of smoke that was just, this was so much worse.
Crews helping with cleanup tell WHAS 11 it is a slow-moving process because of the amount of chemicals and oil. Chief O'Neill says they used a special foam that blankets the flames because it was oil-based. Water doesn't work the same.
And Kyle Miller, a Kentucky Air National Guard firefighter, said in his 24-year career, he's never seen a fire with this much fuel.
Well, Louisville officials like Mayor Craig Greenberg had to return early from his scheduled time off to lead the city through this fallout. And Governor Andy Beshear said he'd never driven so fast to Louisville.
Louisville native and Congressman Morgan McGarvey rushed to his hometown to support his constituents. The first news conference happening later that night, the governor confirming the very worst.
We've got some initial numbers, but let me tell you, I expect them to grow. Right now, we believe we have at least 3 fatalities. So I believe that number is going to get larger. We have at least 11 injuries, some of them very significant, that are being treated by local hospitals. Again, I think that number will get larger.
And 11 people were confirmed dead after the first few hours. It would only rise, as we know, and as firefighters tried to control that blaze, hot spots remained until the next day, and more people were reported missing.
Soon, though, the aftermath of the explosion was under control by the firefighters who traveled from all over Kentucky, but the work to return to normal had only just started.
Well, inside the barricade, the Okolona Fire Department is overseeing that cleanup effort. The only vehicles allowed in or out are some business owners who still have to see what they lost, or the environmental cleanup crews.
Now, the Okolona Fire Chief, Mark Little, has been spending 36-hour shifts right inside.
I go home, I take a shower, and get a few hours of sleep, and then come back. Because of the size of the incident and all the chemicals that are involved, so yes, we move a little slow, but we're moving as fast as we can.
The night of the fire, Little never saw the MD-11 plane that crashed. He said the flames were so high and the smoke was just too thick.
He said the long hours make coming home that much sweeter, though, like this moment for Assistant Chief Jeff Carlson.
Even with the danger of the job there, these firefighters know that the community certainly needs them.
Absolutely. Well, the next day, about 30 investigators with the National Transportation Safety Board, or NTSB, touched down in Louisville to begin their urgent investigation.
The cockpit voice recorder contained 2 hours and 4 minutes of what we consider good quality digital recorded audio. In reviewing that audio, the crew completed their standard checklists and briefings in preparation for the flight. The takeoff roll was what we called uneventful through the different speed callouts. About 37 seconds after the crew called for takeoff thrust, a repeating bell was heard on the CVR, which persisted until the end of the recording 25 seconds later.
Native Todd Inman there, that was at his final local briefing. So far, the NTSB has successfully located the black box, the flight recorders, and performed the necessary lab and data tests to analyze the flight pattern. In a news conference, Inman also stated that after takeoff, a persistent ringing bell was heard, and the black box's last recording was at 5:13, 100 feet of altitude, when the plane went down into several businesses just south of the airport.
The NTSB clarified it could take 30 days to generate a full report. Todd Inman is the NTS board member representing the investigation, and as Doug mentioned, happened to grow up in Owensboro, Kentucky. He said their crew received an outpouring of support from the community during the investigation. You wanted to show just the outpouring that the community has given you.
Unbelievable.
Whenever
Can
nobody
you
wants
hold
to
that
come,
up?
yeah, so
You
nobody
brought
wants
that
to come
to
from
us.
home. This actually, when we got to the hotel about 30 minutes ago, there was a care package sitting there. And a card from some of the local people that I knew. They had found out where we were at, and
It says thank you on it.
well, it says thank you, but there's some wonderful messages in here just about we love you and are so grateful for your work. Please let your team know that our community supports you. We know that you're trying to make it better for everyone. Louisville loves you.
Louisville.
The work that the NTSB is doing is crucial for our community to get answers. We are still waiting for a final report again, which may take up to 30 days, putting the release date in early December.
In the wake of the crash, all MD-11 planes across the country were grounded by the end of the week. Boeing sent a safety recommendation impacting approximately 70 planes worldwide, mostly UPS and FedEx cargo jets. Boeing's Safety Review Board determined that additional engineering analysis was necessary. UPS said MD-11s comprise about 9% of its local airline fleet.
Lad Sanger is an aviation attorney based out of Texas. He joined us live last week over the phone after analyzing the crash video. Here's what he had to say about what caused such a breakdown of an aircraft.
I think it's going to come back to the work that was done in San Antonio.
Really?
And what was done there or not done there properly or improperly, because that's such a major, heavy inspection. So many things are disassembled and inspected, and the time proximity to that heavy inspection in this accident is telling.
Sanger went on to call the aircraft unflyable, saying the pilots did exactly what they were supposed to do in that crisis situation.
Well, our Focus investigative reporter Travis Breeze first reported the history of aviation crashes in Kentucky the night of the crash, and then the next day, the first to report the maintenance record of this very jet. He interviewed a retired airplane inspector who previously worked in Texas on that very UPS plane that crashed in Louisville. The inspector says the plane was in for regularly scheduled maintenance in San Antonio from September to mid-October.
Yes, it was routine.
Jeff Coates, a retired airplane inspector, speaking with me over the phone on Tuesday. The ABC affiliate in San Antonio, KSAT, is reporting Coates' former employer, ST Engineering, worked on the UPS MD-11F about a month and a half before it crashed. FAA records show Coates' signature on airworthiness directives for this aircraft as recently as 2023. The forms refer to the company as VT San Antonio Aerospace. Todd Inman with the NTSB confirmed Friday they are looking at the maintenance from September 3rd to October 18th as part of the investigation.
It was in for what we call a heavy check.
Coates says the plane was in for a C check, which is something it gets every 2 years. A center wing upper fuel tank had a crack in it. Based on what you've seen about this crash, could that have been any part of this crash, do you think?
100% no chance.
How big of a deal the San Antonio maintenance is, still undetermined. But the NTSB is paying close attention.
We've actually dispatched additional people to retrieve some records. The FAA has assisted us, so we feel that we're going to get all the information we need.
Coates just asks people to be careful as we wait for the final report.
And to throw UPS under the airlines or under the bus or VT is not fair. Let's see what happened.
The 31-year-old airplane had almost 93,000 hours of flight time. After this maintenance, it completed 28 more flights before the crash on November 4th.
So we don't know what happened yet, but there are some theories, Connie, out there.
Absolutely. And of course, the NTSB will bring us the official cause of this accident. But we want to welcome our resident aviation expert, Reed Yaden, to talk about this ongoing investigation. Reed, thanks for being here. And you've been talking with us several times about the crash and kind of take our viewers back through what you believe happened.
Well, we know the sequence of events that happened. It became very apparent shortly after the crash that the aircraft had lost an engine on takeoff. What we didn't know immediately was that they had literally lost it. It had departed the airplane. What I want to do is go back now, because the big concern quickly became, okay, we know we lost an engine, but the aircraft should fly on two. It's certified for two engines, had two more engines. So there had to be another engine compromised. Here's the video in real time. We've seen it a bunch of times over and over. What I did was enlarge it. Okay, see the plume there? That's compressor stall off the engine on the right wing.
So we're looking at the backside of the jet as it's getting ready to lift off.
There it is again. There's another flash. Those are telltale signs consistent with compressor stall.
Do you think in this it's 100 feet in the air yet?
No, not at this point. Close to it. It barely cleared the berm at the end. Here are the two different compressor stall images that you see.
I've been curious. A lot's been made of the engine falling off.
Yes.
But wouldn't that be natural with such a blaze like that we're seeing?
Well, there's the engine on the left-hand side, a GE CF6 engine, very reliable. The engine fell off because there's the shroud, the nacelle on the other side. That's the big part that you see on the nose of the engine, the big opening there that sucks in the air. Okay, that engine obviously was operating right up to V1. If they hadn't, they would have rejected the takeoff. After that, things started going south. The engine, the nacelle dropped off the engine about 1,200 to 1,400 feet before the engine came off the aircraft. Now, why did the engine come off the aircraft? We believe it was destroying itself at that point. We can't say that definitively. But if it was, it could have had a lot of vibration on that pylon, because the pylon's designed for the engine to break away. Well, it didn't. The pylon came off with it. So that means the pylon detached from the aircraft. The question is why? Was it subjected to a lot of lateral swinging there? We know it was subjected to intense heat. Those are the things the NTSB is going to be looking at, in addition to those maintenance records out of San Antonio.
Let's talk about how important the black box information is.
Oh, extremely. Because what we're going to find out is exactly when that first engine on the left-hand side, when it went bad, when it started losing thrust, then we'll know when the engine on the other side, the other wing, began to lose thrust as it was going into compressor stall. And then, was the tail engine operating at 100% the whole time, or had it picked up some debris also?
You heard us in our reports breaking down the month-long maintenance in San Antonio. Many people say the answer is going to be found right there. Others saying, hold on, use caution on that. So how important are those records going to be? Because what they do to the plane, they sort of tore it apart.
It's a C check. That's a major check. They go in and take off inspection plates, take all the seats out of there, take the headliners out, really deconstruct the airplane. I'm in the camp that says, let's hold on here. The records are vital because it will show everything everything was done to the plane, who did it, part number, piece number, so on and so forth. That's vital. But I'm not ready to say that the answer will come out of there yet. I think also it's worth noting that the NTSB went to great lengths, which they do, they're the best in the world, to patrol that runway after it was over. They went down there with magnets. Then they also followed with LiDAR. They wanted every piece and bit of that engine. I have confidence that they got 99 and 9/10% of what they wanted.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the grounding of the MD-11s.
Yes.
That's about 70 aircraft
Right.
worldwide. What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I think it was a wise thing to do. You and I were talking late Friday evening, and while we were talking, they grounded it. And so they're all grounded now. The question is, how many of them will fly again? There's some thought that UPS may not put them in the air again. We'll see.
I'm interested. You know, we've seen reports come out pretty fast from the MTSB, right at their 30-day deadline.
Yeah.
If we hold true to this, as we've already told our audience, that would mean around maybe the 1 month would be December 4th. Do you think we'll get a preliminary report within 30 days or 30 days?
I think it'll be right at 30. That's just my thought. They've got a lot of work to do, a lot of things to unwind. I don't know that we're going to get a definitive cause, but I think we'll certainly have things pointing in. I mean, we know what the cause was, but why did all those things happen? Namely, why did that engine detach from that airplane? I don't think they're going to be ready to say that.
But those preliminary reports a lot of times really give us the clue.
Oh, they do.
I mean, I'll go back to the Jivet plant explosion in Clifton. That preliminary report pretty much said it all about tank number 6 that blew.
Right. And I think you will get a lot of good data out of it. I think they will still have a lot of investigating to do at that point. But they know a whole lot right now out of those black boxes. Sure. There's just all kinds of data in there, not only the voice tracks, but just the digital data from all the data points on that MD-11 that they've collected on every system on that airplane.
All right. Great to have you. How many years with WHAS now, Reed?
I think I'm coming up on 30.
30 years.
On a handshake deal.
Long-time member of our weather team and a active pilot here in Kentucky.
I was out flying today, but it's a pleasure to be here at this station because we do things like this. And we care about the community.
And you give us great insight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Reed. Well, such wide impacts to this. We want to talk about the environmental disaster, crews cleaning up waterways from the enormous amount of oil that came down out of the skies from the fireball.
WHAS 11's Jose Alonso and photojournalist Levi Hammer talked to one woman with oil in her backyard.
The Environmental Protection Agency, also known as the EPA, says as of November 10th, they've collected 286,000 gallons of oil water mix. And you'll see right here behind me that they have crews working into the nighttime hours, all in an effort to continue collecting that contaminated water.
In the daylight, the action is clear. Crews using multiple tools to recover water mixed with oil from the UPS crash. You can see the sheen on top of the water. Contaminated after the crash sent it streaming into creeks and waterways.
The MSD has been coordinating the cleanup here. They have helped stop 30,000 gallons of oil from going into our groundwater.
3 days after the crash, Louisville MSD released this map showing waterways potentially contaminated by runoff. The path includes Pond Creek, which sits in Nancy Bryant's backyard in Valley Station.
The last few days we've had a lot of noise, and especially at night, some bright lights over here like floodlights and some really loud sounds.
She says it wasn't communicated with her or neighbors that runoff cleanup was underway until Monday.
I was just blown away that this far out we would have this much work going on, and a lot should be said for the guys that are out there working in that water in Pond Creek, because that can't be an easy thing to do.
A close look at the impacted creeks clearly shows contamination in the water. This discolored tire with a pool of purple in it paints the picture.
We are still asking people to avoid contact with waterways, especially along Pond Creek, the northern ditch, and southern ditch.
For Bryant, the big concern is if it's impacting her personal pond that feeds through Pond Creek.
My dog drinks out of that pond every single day because we walk back here. I'm thinking about other wildlife, and I just wanted to make sure that it was safe. And I was concerned about the fact that we weren't really notified. Perhaps I should have been more aware, but I wasn't thinking about this far down there would be such issues.
She says MSD Hazmat plans to test this pond to help give her peace of mind.
The EPA is monitoring the surface water impacted by the spilled oil daily, starting at Salt River and then moving upstream. Now, that's about 4.5 miles of impacted water.
Audrey Erzberger, with an attorney with Kentucky Resources Council, is worried about the air and water quality.
I think precaution and taking an abundance of precaution is the necessary step for people who live in the area. Avoiding contact with northern and southern ditches, especially in Pond Creek, and keeping pets away from that area is really important.
The emergency response is a group contracted to help with cleanup around the Pond Creek area. MSD warned people to avoid waterways like Northern Ditch and Southern Ditch that come directly from the crash site, along with Pond Creek. MSD saying the water could be potentially contaminated with runoff from the crash.
Now, some other potential hazards the EPA is tackling after the crash. Officials used chemical sensors to monitor the air within a 1-mile radius of the crash site. They found it to be mostly safe, with just slight traces of pollution.
Meanwhile, a staging area for recovered waste has been set up at a nearby UPS facility, and officials have confirmed several large storage tanks at a nearby waste management business were broken open and fell over. That facility is shut down as the NTSB continues its investigation. And the disaster impacted people's livelihoods and destroyed businesses that had been standing for decades just south of the airport.
And this gives you right here this drone video from the NTSB, a better view of the area impacted. The plane directly hit 2 businesses, but many others in the area were damaged. Their employees who saw the crash firsthand will certainly deal with the trauma and the loss for the rest of their lives, like the people seen in this video. This video that employee Rob Sanders captured right after the plane crashed at Grade A, the scrap recycling center. Sanders says before the crash, when he got in the building, all electricity cut out. He heard a roaring sound and then the ground started shaking.
Sanders lives in his RV on site and told us he was inside his camper just minutes before the plane crashed. His RV was destroyed.
I thought it was the end of the world, honestly. I thought we were all dead. Losing employees, customers, either way, it's just like losing actual family.
At least 4 of the victims were employees inside Grade A Auto Parts at the time of the crash. Even more victims were customers of the scrapyard.
After the UPS jet went down and happened right outside Stooges Bar and Grill, the last few days have been difficult for Mike Smith and his co-workers.
And now the restaurant is still closed with a reopening date unclear. 43 employees are out of work without a paycheck as the holidays now approach. While Stooges' doors are closed, just down the road, O'Dolly's, another bar, has taken in some of the employees.
The owner of O'Dolly's and the owner of Stooges are mother and daughter, so
so the daughter has helped out and let some of us work over here. Allowed us to, supplement our income that's non-existent. It makes me feel great, makes you realize how much people care.
We also had the chance to speak with Teamsters Local 89 President Brian Ham, who represents Louisville's UPS workers. He said UPS will have some catching up to do.
UPS has had such a good safety record here in Louisville. I mean, this is the first time this has happened. To the best of our knowledge right now, none of our people were injured. They'll be double shifting. It's going to be a lot of work to get themselves back on schedule.
And Louisvillian Mary Ballinger said it was a miracle that her family escaped from the crash site. She and her granddaughter were hospitalized with injuries from that impact. And now her family is working to rebuild what they lost and heal from the tragedy together. Alexander Goldberg and photojournalist Jessica Farley spoke to a family with a heartbreaking story, but an incredible escape from the crash site.
1 minute you're sitting there, you're playing with your kids, you're laughing, and then you're running for your life. We all made it through that, as I call it, the gates of hell.
November 4th was a regular evening for Mary Ballinger and her children, parked outside Embry's Auto Parts on Grade Lane.
And we go to Daddy's work and wait for Daddy.
Waiting for her husband, Terry Ballinger, to get off of work.
And I just happened to look up in my windshield and we see a plane, the nose of a plane, coming directly towards us.
Mary says her family was in the path of the MD-11 UPS cargo plane that crashed near the Muhammad Ali International Airport 1 week ago, taking 14 lives.
We hear a boom, we see the black smoke. We hear another boom, the whole back of the plane is engulfed in flames, and so is our van. This is jet fuel. This is all jet fuel that you see on it. You can even feel it. It's burnt.
This is the family minivan they escaped in.
And that's our 6-year-old. That's his shoe.
Surrounded by heat, the imprint of a sneaker scarred into the floor of the car.
My husband says he's getting rid of the floor mats. He doesn't want to look at that anymore either.
Terry has worked on Grade Lane for 17 years. On this day, walking through the exit door, instead of being greeted by his family, he faced a wall of flames.
My husband immediately dropped his cooler and dropped to his knees, his boss said, and said, my wife, my kids, they're gone.
But she says their 6-year-old was the first one out of the fire.
And he ran to his daddy, and then we all ran to him.
The Ballingers then took off in their van.
I see it as it saved our life, but also I hate it because it's a constant reminder. Yes, we went through it, we got out of it, but putting my whole family in that van again, it's really hard to do.
In Louisville, Alexander Goldberg, WHAS 11, on your side.
Well, for families like the Ballingers, Louisville Mayor Craig Greenberg announced there's now a community resource center open so people who are impacted by the crash can learn more about resources that are available to them. It's open from 7 to 9 every day except on Sundays.
And there's also a call center you can reach out to learn about those resources. That number is 502-473-5271. Again, that number 502-473-5271.
Seeing it on TV and hearing about it, I felt it because I've been on 100 planes, all different types, in my service years.
And now to the community coming together in very public ways. That was a Cold War veteran expressing his grief for those lost. The Veterans Day Parade last weekend on a Saturday paid tribute. As this past week, many people have admitted that time has felt like time just stood still. Regardless of how much pain our community has felt, people have continued to dedicate their time to helping people heal, especially the families of those who perished.
Well, strangers putting out crosses in honor of the victims all last week. The Big Four Bridge was lit up in a gold and yellow to pay tribute to UPS and all the victims and survivors. Even crosses were laid in Waterfront Park for anyone to visit. Neighbors across Louisville tied those yellow ribbons to trees in their yard, showing solidarity. And resident Bonnie Costa was heartbroken from the tragedy and had this to say.
My heart hurts for the people, for the families that lost family, the businesses that was destroyed. It's just sad.
And then it was a sold-out crowd in downtown Louisville for the UK U of L basketball rivalry, the biggest rivalry game of the year, of course. Back at the Yum Center, U of L and UK made a point to honor the victims of the crash.
Many fans told us it felt important to go and be with the community that night, plus players and coaches alike wore ribbons to remember the community in mourning. One Cards fan told us he's glad to see the team supporting Louisville and described why the crash hit close to home.
And I have a niece that is a UPS pilot, and that stuck with me for a moment because we didn't know if that was one of their fights or anything, but it was just a relief knowing it wasn't her involved in anything.
Well, regardless of the red or blue, this community of Kentuckians and Southern Hoosiers, too, we're glad to see both teams wearing black ribbons. The aviation community, of course, is a tight one.
A local pilot is making sure they're supported and fed as they continue to work after the devastation. WHAS 11's Alex Dieterer has that story.
UPS planes taking off from Louisville's Muhammad Ali International Airport, but the MD-11s stay grounded. Sunlight beams down on the tarmac, a stark contrast to what filled the sky just a week ago.
There's no days that are guaranteed as a pilot for anybody.
Louisville pilot Sydney Martin has been flying for 5 years. She watched the scene unfold after the UPS cargo plane crashed just south of the airport. 3 crew members were on board.
Being in the Louisville area and having it hit so close to home just gave me chills.
An aviation community left grieving. Martin jumped into action. In less than 1 week, she's raised thousands of dollars to buy warm meals for Louisville's air traffic controllers and emergency crews.
I can't imagine witnessing such a devastating event and continuing to have to work to keep others safe.
Up in the air traffic control tower, Martin says the view overlooks the half-mile path of destruction from the crash.
You can see the top of the building where it got hit, and then the top of the path as well.
Louisville pilots, air traffic controllers, and first responders surrounded by tragedy.
Louisville will always show up for each other.
But also surrounded by neighbors who choose to step up and support them when it's needed most. In Louisville, Alex Dieterer, the WHAS 11 night team on your side.
And as Louisville continues to try to understand what happened here on November 4th, the next big step will be learning the facts.
That will be a day of importance for so many who are looking to make sure this never happens again, but also a day of anger and more grieving for others and family members who will certainly wonder why this had to happen.
In the coming days and weeks, WHAS 11 News will continue to bring you updated and new information that you need to know about the UPS plane crash.
So many families are looking for a clear answer, like why was the jet so crippled so quickly in the air with no way to recover?
Well, of course, Louisville is home to a unique, strong, and resilient community who has worked around the clock to help those affected by this incident, and that's why we are confident Louisvillians will prevail.
In light of the tragedy and all those who have lost loved ones, businesses, or property, we want to end on a moment of silence to honor and hold them in our hearts. And thank you very much for watching this special report on WHAS 11 Plus.